Howdy folks, how you going? Welcome to the brewery, and today I'm unboxing this fella, the Apollo 30 litre snub nose pressure fermenter. This was being sent to me by Keg King for me to try out and play around with some extract brewing and yeah, do a video and show how it performs. So got an email from Daniel down there asking me if I was interested in doing a video for them on one. If they sent me one, so go for it. So today I'm going to be putting down a brew in this fella. I'm doing the latest version of extravaganza, and I'm going to ferment in this fella. So I'm going to go through this. We'll do a quick unboxing, see what's in it. I've cracked the lid just to have a quick look, but I haven't actually unpacked it as yet. So we'll do that shortly, and we'll get through and we'll get it filled up. So what I'm going to do, three videos over the next couple of weeks, and following this ferment through from now right through to bottling, slash kegging. Sorry. See, I've got a mouse over him munching away in the bloody corner. Yeah, munching on some rat sack, dirty bastard. Anyway, yeah, so that's where we're going. So this is newer ferment designs for fermenting under pressure. So let's pull him out and have a look. That, I said I'm only going off, I haven't even had a real look at what's going on with these. That is a thermo well, which is something you don't normally see with a plastic fermenter or a PET. So let's just leave that for a second. Let's get out of here. We've got our stand, bag of goodies. The stand's fairly substantial looking. Obviously custom made. Okay, this is our fermenter body. And this is the snub nose. It's actually conical, which is good. I've not used a conical fermenter for a while. So this is a good design for brewing, because it gets your yeast cake down the bottom and allows your beer to have less contact with the yeast, which over a longer ferment can have positive benefits. So I've got two little bits in here which I'm going to leave aside just for a second. Let's get rid of that. So that's there. It's got the pressure testing warning on the side here, 35 psi maximum working pressure, and it tells not to use this under pressure after March 2025. So it's got, at the moment, almost a 3-year service life. I'm pretty happy with that, because a lot of containers I've had previously have been 2 years and less. Alright, so we go through our bits and pieces there. We've got a warning about making sure valves and pressure relief and things are clean. We've got our little float ball tube. Okay. We've got a little stainless mesh filter option. So I suppose we got the option of between using the ball or that. Potentially you could probably join those and use both if you wanted to. Interesting, good option to have both anyway. So we've got some tubing for that. Right, we've got all our bits and pieces for our lid. So we've got the lid. She's got 2 smaller holes, which I would assume are going to be our for our posts. We've actually got 3 pressure relief valves, purple, red and blue. Now, top of my head I don't know which one is which, so I'd have to look that up and see exactly which one is which. They will be different levels, and I think, yeah, not sure. I'll look that up and let you know before the end. But they're there. So I think what the option with these is that you can put a lower pressure PRV onto the unit and just use this as your control mechanism, and not necessarily need to use a spunding valve. But I will be using a spunding valve for this video because I want to show the process of how that works. So I will work out which one of these to put in, and we'll put that in before we get to fermenting. Yep, we've got our 2 posts. That's notched, so that's our gas. That's our beer, and they've both got small dip tube. They're both the same, so they'll go onto our small post. We've got our O-ring, which is going to sit around the bottom of the cap, and there's another little fella in there, which I'm going to assume at the moment is probably for the ferment well. Well, it's got to be. It's the only other place it's going to fit. The dip tubes they're going to rely on the internal O-ring to seal, so that's going to be for our ferment well. So just trying to work out this go. I'll go online. The instructions are probably going to be online to put this together. But yeah, that's obviously going to go. Looking at it a bit closer, ferment well is going to go onto the bottom here. And that's just going to sit on top. That's going to be for our PRV. Looking at that, it goes in there, and yeah, pressure relief valve screws into that. And obviously, and so take that out, and you can change your valve. So, so we pop that in there, and we see that ferment well goes all the way through to right to the very bottom. Yeah, it's ½ inch from the bottom. Looking at that, so that's going to give us a nice. Well, should give a temperature reading. You know, not right in the middle of the wort, so it should be as accurate as you can possibly get. So that's that. I've got a little digital thermometer, which will go on the side, which I'll fix up, and our graduation sticker. As always, of these things, it's like, okay, where does it actually measure from? So I will do a weight on this with some water, work out where that is. So I'll get these bits and pieces put on, and then we'll be ready to get the brew into this fella. They've also sent me with this a spundy, which is Keg King spunding valve. I've been using two of these already in the brewery for a little while. They've included a new one with this kit, which is good. Never, it's not going to go astray to have another one. And that's they're different to your normal spundy valve you're used to looking at. We'll have a closer look at that when it comes to actually using it. So I'll leave him in the box for now. And they've also included a quickie. Yeah, not a voucher, but little unit now. I've been using one again. I've been using one of these for about probably about 3 weeks now in the brewery, and that's her there. Now I've got mine just sitting here on the table because out where I use it regularly, and simply just attaches a little bit of hose off the end, and you use this for taking samples from your liquid post, during ferment and stuff. So when you want to take a gravity reading, a sample, or see how things are progressing, this is an easy way of doing it. And what this is both, technically it's a poppet compression device. So inside, no, it's not inside, but it's on this bit that screws down, you can see that passes straight through. It's just a little pocket knob. So when you pop this onto your post, you just sit on top, you just push it down, engages the poppet, and allows your beer to come out so you can take samples. So when you want a hydrometer sample, you just put your hose into your hydrometer, push down on your poppet, and you get your sample. Now we'll see this in operation as we go through. It doesn't eradicate the problem of dealing with gassed up samples, but it is a simple bit of unit, and it's easy to clean, and it's very easy to put together, which makes it far easier to use than standard picnic line or something similar that was the alternative up until this bit of gear came along. So as I said, look at those a little bit later in more detail when we're using them. Okay, so I'm going to put this together and we'll be back. Righto, we've got everything together. So got our thermometer on. Now I'll put it down low, so it's under the 12 litre mark, because at times I might be doing only half batches, but that'll actually get me a good measure close to the activity of the yeast without any problem. PRV valves, I've done the check. Blue is 10 psi, purple is 15, red is 35. So red's just sort of standard sort of PRV. So as I said, what they do give you these for is you could put the 10 psi in there and use that as a spund, and it will just let your pressure off once it gets to 10 psi, and you won't get above that, which is workable for most brews to some degree. 15 would be really good to actually use as a bottling pressure, because that's about the target I normally go for. I aim for about 14 psi in the fermenter before I bottle, so that could work quite well from that sort of angle. But as I said, because I'm using a spunding valve and we'll actually be controlling the pressure directly, I've gone for the 35, so they can stay aside. Got my volume markings on. I put 2 litres in here, measured it up, I weighed it to make sure it was in the right place, put just a little, you can see there, just a little mark with a, with a Sharpie, and then put the sticker on. That's accurate, so it's going to give me good volumes. Got the lid together, you see all the bits and pieces on there now, disconnects are on, ferment well on the middle, and we've got our siphon and our screen on. Now the ball is just a ball, there is no connection to get the hose onto that. So obviously she's designed to use the little stainless mesh siphon with the ball just to hold that up out of your, on top of your wort to filter from there. So I'm going to run that at the moment. I'll certainly get enough out of this, it's not going to be a problem. So that sits in. At the moment it goes all the way to the bottom of the fermenter. That's not a problem because that will float. Got our O-ring on there, which I will put some lube on. Yeah, I'll put some lube on that before I actually get ready to seal it up. But at the moment, I'm going to grab this, I'm going to stick it on the keg washer for 10 minutes and give it a blast with some PBW just to clean any crap out of it. Then hit with some sanitizer, ready for this brew. And while that's happening, I'll go and get the brew ready. You can't really come that with me because it's a totally different video. But anyway, I'll see you soon when we've got some lovely water in here ready to go to the ferment fridge. Rightio, we've got our brew in the Apollo, 23 litres of Morgan's Heineken lager clone, Blue Mountain lager kit, tin of extra malt, just malt extract, Morgan's, and a little bit of dextrose and some hops. She's ready to go, she's mixed up. I've pitched some yeast on this. She's sorted, ready to do its thing. Okay, so I've lubed up the O-ring. I've just sanitised this ferment well in my hands and she's good to go. So pop him in, straight down, get that in, and I've managed to leave the lid out in the garage. That's alright. I'll take this through, get in the fridge, we'll have a look, we'll get a spunding valve onto it. Alright, so just before we get this in the fridge, let's have a quick look at the spundy and talk about how the spundy, just quickly how it works, especially at this spot, the start of the ferment. Now at the moment this is just sealed up, and as this ferments, this container is going to fill up with CO2 because there's nowhere for it to get out. Notice that this is where you could use that 10 psi pressure relief valve and just let it bleed off at 10 psi. But I don't want that because at some point I want to go a little bit higher so I can get final carbonation on this beer. And you'll see that further down exactly how that works. But so what I'm doing at the moment is I want to put the spundy on and use it as an airlock. So, because what these are, in closer look, this is set up on a gas lock, gas disconnect, and got your dial on one end and the other end's just a plus and minus pressure adjuster. Now, I said this is the Keg King Spundy. These are different to other spunding valves. There's lots of different ones, but this is the one that Keg King are doing. I don't mind them. These aren't too bad. They can be a little fiddly at times, but all spunding valves can be. You need to just something you need to just work through when you're using them. So what I want to do is just put a little bit of gas in here, so I can set my spunding valve to a low pressure initially, just while the initial fermentation happens. So as you can see, we haven't got a lot of headspace in here. So if we get a vigorous ferment going in here, we're going to overflow. We're not going to be able to contain it. So you want a bit of pressure to keep that under control, and that pressure helps to stop the yeast from getting too carried away and stops some of the unwanted flavours that can come along from a quick ferment. Now, given that this is actually a lager and we're going to be doing a lager temps, that should not be too much of an issue on this particular brew. But this is about the process and the setup, and this will work whether it's a lager or an ale, whatever temperature you're working at, doesn't matter. So I've just hooked my gas bottle up here, just so I can get a little bit of gas on here, and I only want to put, maybe 3 or 4 psi. I don't want a lot. As I said, this is just so I can set my spundy valve. So that's around 6 psi in there at the moment, something like that. 5 to 8. It's not, the gauges aren't super accurate, so close enough. And it is one thing you're sort of going to learn to live with when you're playing with gas pressures, that they aren't exact. They are really ballpark numbers. These instruments, as good as they are not super accurate, and don't rely on them to be super accurate. So I'm just going to move the camera around so we can get a closer look at what's going on here. Now this isn't going to be easiest to see. I am on the wrong side of the light. But hopefully you'll be able to get enough of an idea. So at the moment I've got the spundy wound all the way in, so it's completely holding pressure. If you wind it all the way out to the point where it's all about falling off, which it'll do if you go too far, it will just work as a, same way as an airlock, and we'll just let gas just flow through with no restriction. So if I pop that on, and you see straight away the gauge is now showing that we've got pressure there, and it's showing a bit over 5 psi. Now I've got to adjust the valve to get it to work at the pressure I want. So whenever you do that, you need to start with a higher pressure than what you want. So I said I'm happy to go down around 3 or 4 psi. So I just wind this out until it starts to release some gas. Now it's going to need to go away because it's not got a lot in there. And there you go, she starts to go now. And it'll start to come off. And that's wound way off. So it's now coming down, getting down around 4-ish. So I'm probably happy to sit about there. So I'll wind this back in till that gas stops. And it's still going at the moment. Okay, it stopped there. So that's sort of somewhere around 3.5 sort of psi. It might come up a little bit from there now as I let it ferment. So we'll put that in, so we can just let that go in the fridge. So what we'll do now is put this into the fridge. I'll set it at 11 degrees. I'm going to be able to stick my temperature probe from my STC or Inkbird, whatever it is you're using, but you can stick your probe down into your thermo well and get your reading from there. Now I'm going to be interested to see how that reading compares to, say, the thermometer on the outside here. But we'll talk about that in the next video as we go through the actual ferment itself. So, pardon me. We'll get this one in for now. Our ball's floating over here, no problem at all. That's looking good. Yeah, so that should be all fine. So as long as this setup is holding pressure, which I've not done a pressure test on, we'll soon find out. But as long as this holds pressure, this bunding valve is going to keep us around that 4 psi, which I'm really happy to run with for a whack of the ferment. So we'll let it run now. And I said on the next video we'll come back and we'll have a look at see how the ferment is progressing, and we'll get that quickie out. We'll take a sample. We'll look at how to take a sample under pressure, and then how to adjust the pressure as you go along, working towards getting to bottling at the end. So guys, that's it. Now again, thanks to Keg King for giving me the opportunity to use this bit of gear. Really looking forward to seeing how this goes. So that's it. That's setting up pressure ferment. With any sort of pressure fermenting vessel. These bits all might look a little bit different depending on where you're going to get them from, but they're all going to do the same job. So if you've got any comments or any questions, stick them down the bottom. I will put links down the bottom to all the bits and pieces that have been in the video. Yep, and I'll see you on the next video. So if you do get into the pressure fermentation, if you haven't done so already, which you should do, give it a whack. Pressure ferment gets 2 thumbs up from me every time, no problem. I love it. And hopefully, if you haven't been into it or you haven't looked at it a hell of a lot, you'll see over these 3 videos maybe why you should love it as well. But anyway, that's me. I'm out of here. So till I see you next time, brewing beer, drinking beer or talking beer, good brewing.